Hi everybody, I'm Richard Hatch from Battlestar Galactica. Both the classic role of Captain Apollo and the reimagined version of Tom Zarek.
Hi there everyone. This next video that you're about to see is a mini celebration of 35 years of the sci-fi TV series Battlestar Galactica. I'm a fan of the series, which first made its television debut back in 1978, and then the reimagined version which started in 2004 that lasted for 4.5 seasons. And a couple of months ago, two friends on Facebook told me that they could actually put me into contact with Richard Hatch. Richard, of course, played the role of Captain Apollo in the original series, and then he was brought back to play the role of Tom Zarek in the reimagined version of BSG. And what actually was the idea of doing a phone interview with Richard, actually eventually it became a trip down to Brisbane, Australia, where Richard was attending a sci-fi convention in the month of October. And up to this point, no Singaporean reporter had ever interviewed anybody from the classic TV series like Star Trek or Buck Rogers, Star Wars, or even Battlestar Galactica. So this was an opportunity for me to actually go and meet a sci-fi legend, get his thoughts on the series, and to see what the series is still, whether the series is still relevant for the audiences of today. So I paid about $1,500, went down to Brisbane, met Richard, and Richard was a true gentleman. We hung out for 3 days, and he spoke to me at length about several issues, from life to movies to what he's working on. And to Richard, thank you very much for the 3 days, and the best of luck in your forthcoming projects. Thanks for actually pushing the Battlestar Galactica project for the last 30 years. And let's hope that the BSG franchise does eventually translate into a new movie in the forthcoming years. So, as they say in the world of Battlestar Galactica, so say we all. And hope you all enjoy this one.
There are those who believe that life here began out there, far across the universe, with tribes of humans who may have been the forefathers of the Egyptians, or the Toltecs, or the Mayans. Some believe that there may yet be brothers of man who even now fight to survive somewhere beyond the heavens.
Battlestar Galactica was quite an extraordinary experience for me. I remember when they were casting for it, I turned it down because I thought it was going to be a cheesy Star Wars ripoff, as television usually does. Takes a successful movie and tries to port it to television. And so I turned it down. And even though I was a big sci-fi fan, I thought it wasn't going to be serious sci-fi. And then 9 months later, I was in an episode of an anthology series that Rosanna Arquette, at 18, was doing her first big role in, and I played a park coach. And Glenn Larson happened to see it, and he thought I was the perfect Apollo, and they had not found Apollo. After casting for 9 months, every actor in the business had gone in to audition for it, and they had not found the perfect Apollo, and somehow, some way, he thought I was the perfect one for it. So I never had to read for it, never auditioned for it, never met with network for it. I literally was cast in it, which was unbelievable, but I honestly wasn't sure I wanted to do it. Being a very idealistic actor at the time, thinking I wanted to do something serious and meaningful, and I thought, again, this is going to be action adventure. But anyway, they showed me the Ralph McQuarrie script, who did the artwork for it, Ralph McQuarrie, and I was blown away by all this amazing artwork. And the idealistic actor went out the window, and the little child that wanted to fly through space came to the forefront, and I ended up saying yes. And the next day I was on the set of Battlestar Galactica and walking onto this huge mega billion-dollar production, and with film crews from all over the world, and I was absolutely blown away. I'd never seen anything on the scope and size and scale of Battlestar Galactica. I was quite, I have to be honest, intimidated, as every actor is the first day on any set, not knowing anybody, with all that expectation of feeling like you have to prove yourself. And with a production this big, it even made it scarier for me. But I got a chance to meet one of my heroes growing up, Lorne Greene, who obviously played on Bonanza. And from the moment I met Lorne, we had such a wonderful connection. And the chemistry between us for father and son was already there. And that basically grounded me, calmed me down, and made me, feel at home. And we started this almost 18-month shoot, which was unheard of in television history before or now, because we were filming long overnight shoots, 18-hour days, because it was such a big theatrical size production that trying to mount it in a week was almost impossible. And so it took a lot of time, and we lived on the back lot of Universal, basically lived in my motorhome. And we, the cast, got to know each other really, really well, because we were hanging out and bonding together under all the stress and tension and frustrations of filming that many hours and not getting a lot of sleep. And it ultimately became, amazing experience, because when they finally launched the show, it was received by 65 million fans. And a number one show today is lucky to get 21, 22 million. Many times they're getting 10 million, 11, 12 million. In fact, that's even a more realistic number. But back then, 65 million people tuned in, and we were, I think, number 5 in the ratings. But the show only lasted 1 year because the expense, the time it took to shoot it and the expense of it was so big and so monumental for television at that time. And because we ultimately ended up in the top 20, which, by the way, I think we're the 6th highest rated news show of the season. We were in the top 20. And any other show on any other network would have been picked up for the next 5 years. But because we were on ABC with 7 out of the top 10 shows, we were basically, axed because of all that. And yet, 35 years later, you have all these companies producing toys, games, merchandising for Battlestar Galactica, because it created such a powerful fan base. And I think, again, the problem was networks and studios still didn't get sci-fi back then. They didn't understand the power of sci-fi, or how big that so-called niche market really is. There's all ages, all backgrounds, all cultures love sci-fi fantasy. Probably one of the most successful genres of all time.
Probably already back, having a cool one in the officers' club.
Nothing. Not a sign of them. We've had a number of Cylon fighters making suicide runs at us, but none transmitting the identification signal.
What if they never even got off that base star?
Commander, another Cylon fighter approaching.
Transfer to my console. Here comes another one.
Maybe that's them.
Switch to attack computer frequency. No flashing red dot. Activate laser guns.
No, sir, don't fire. It's them.
How do you know?
They're waggling. Waggling?
Just keep waggling, buddy. Told you we didn't need any of that electronic Felger carb.
Yeah, well, right after they canceled us, they put on Mork and Mindy on Sunday nights, which didn't do as well as Battlestar did. and they realized they made a mistake with Battlestar. And so their thinking was, let's bring back the show, but we'll cut the budget in half and we'll bring it to Earth, which essentially shows no understanding of science fiction and basically alienated all the fans. I turned it down, Dirk turned it down, and the show bombed. I mean, it was like, it was kind of a skeleton of the original show. And all the fans were disappointed, thinking we were all going to be back in the show, and that chemistry that we had that made the show so special. Because we had a sense of extended family that everybody loved, and the whole family, I didn't care whether you're 5 years old or 90, could sit down and watch Battlestar Galactica together.
But why did you turn it down?
I turned it down because it wasn't the original show. I didn't want to do this cheesy little cut rate Battlestar Galactica that was brought to Earth. For me, Battlestar is about the journey. It's not about getting to the destination. It's about the arduous journey to find Earth. And the minute they took that out of the equation, everything that made that show special was gone.
We have at last found Earth.
2 unidentified flying objects on radar.
Bring them down.
Hey! Roll over, wise guy! Rise!
Demonstrators were apprehended trying to break into Peace Prize winner Donald Mortenson's laboratory today after beating up a security guard.
How can you have a problem with a simple set of fingerprints?
Well, come see for yourself. There ain't no ridges, there ain't no valleys.
They may be as important to mankind as the coming of the Messiah.
No, whatever they might have thought they were going to do, they didn't do. And even though they submitted the script to us, the minute I read the script, it wasn't Battlestar anymore. It was another show. For me, they ruined what could have been a huge franchise for Universal. They ruined it. And even though, you know, the movie, which went out all around the world, did so well, they didn't even make another movie of it. You know, even though the movie did spectacularly well. So I think studios back then did not understand the genre of science fiction. They didn't get it. Today, they get it a little bit. But I think most sci-fi fans I know are frustrated because there's just not enough quality science fiction programming. And even the Sci-Fi Channel doesn't like to program science fiction. So, you know, in this day and age, we really do need to find a new home where really quality science fiction programming can happen again, and where space shows like Battlestar, Farscape, Firefly, Star Trek, all these kinds of shows, can be brought back. So we're keeping our fingers crossed.
So you're saying Galactica started off as a movie, and then
it was a movie in the rest of the world, but it debuted in America as a 3-hour miniseries. Yeah.
And then it followed on.
Yeah,
as a full-fledged series for one season.
Battlestar is supposed to be a 7-hour miniseries, and at episode or hour 3, they decided to make it into a full-fledged series.
And then there was a second movie, sort of, where it was filmed.
And they filmed a second movie, which they basically took one of the 2-hour episodes and turned that into a movie.
It was the 7th era of mankind. 20 yards had passed since the last Great War. A civilization was reborn. An enemy had grown. And now a new generation will have to face an old foe.
It is done, imperious leader.
I must prepare them for the second coming.
It's been 5 years since we last saw that Cylon. They no longer pose a threat.
They have evolved.
Greetings. There's been a Cylon civil war. A new and more lethal species of Cylons has emerged. Let me say that you're all in great peril, and only I can lead you to safety.
My brother is leading his dad in dangerous path.
Your son's gonna make a fine pilot. Yes, he is. These cadets have no idea what they're in for.
Your father has gone beyond.
How dare you?
You care for no one but yourself in your quest for power. Now mark my words. I will not stand by and watch the human race bow down and be defeated once again.
And I began writing some stories and exploring some ideas and concepts for how the story could be brought back. And I wanted to obviously continue it. I didn't want to kind of go back and explore the same framework. I wanted to move forward and take the original cast and a new generation born in space and move forward with the story, which is what I did. And I pitched it to Universal, but they couldn't quite envision what that would look like. They couldn't quite get it through their head that there was a big enough audience out there for Battlestar Galactica because, you know, they figured, well, it's only on 1 year, how big of an audience could it be? They still did not understand the sci-fi community. They don't understand how the sci-fi community is networked and how frustrated the sci-fi community was that it was not being served. There just was not enough quality programming for that audience. So I began to kind of mobilize an effort. I started developing BattlestarGalactica.com. I started going to various companies like Sony, different companies. I went to some game companies, some comic book companies, and I developed relationships with them, and we started to get licenses from Universal to do not only the comic book, which I did for Extreme Press, and then we did a series of books, taking my stories and evolving them forward with iBooks, and we did 7 of those books, and then Sony wanted to do a game of Battlestar for Sony PlayStation 2, which Universal basically couldn't make their decision fast enough in order to produce the game in time for Sony PlayStation 2. So all of this stuff just kept, you know, frustrating me because I saw such potential in this story. So I finally said, well, I gotta show them something more dynamic, something that would basically wake them up to what Battlestar could be. And of course, nobody in that day did trailers, you know, for the sake of doing a trailer or a sizzle reel in order to sell an idea, which is what everybody does today. So without having made a movie first. And obviously, you know, back in the day, it cost a lot of money to produce a quality trailer. So I set out to do an animated storyboard, and that animated storyboard kind of grew into a theatrical trailer as I got more and more support, more and more help, more and more people coming on board, hearing about the project, wanting to contribute their talents and abilities and assets. So it kind of grew from this little ground roots kind of movement to more and more people coming on board, including Volker Engel, who won the Academy Award for ID4, special effects supervisor, Dean Cundy, who was the DP for Jurassic Park and Apollo 13. All these people, Wonderworks, which did a lot of not only their own movies, but did a lot of the model building, and for some of the big movies like Armageddon, they did a whole bunch of stuff, you know, for any movie that was dealing with space. And they came and did some forced perspective shots for me, and helped me orchestrate some of the more complex special effects shots I had to do. So I was getting all this support and all this help, and this little animated storyboard grew into the trailer called The Second Coming trailer, which when we debuted it, kind of blew people away because they thought they were going to see a little backyard production, and also they thought it's impossible to do a trailer because it costs way too much money, and essentially they also were concerned that, you know, did Universal know we were doing this? And we weren't doing it for money. We were doing it kind of like as a fan presentation, but to inspire a revival. And that's exactly what we did. We made it to inspire a revival, and ultimately we played it around the country, around the world, and we also played it for Universal, the people at Universal, and they still couldn't understand that there could be a big enough fan base for this show. And I told them, I said, if you went to Dragon Con in Atlanta, if you went to Comic Con, we had 10,000 people, kids, 14, 15, 18, 28, 35, 40, 60, watching the show and clapping and giving a standing ovation for this trailer. Not because of just the trailer, but because they were so hungry for more Battlestar Galactica. So I'm trying to tell them this idea, but they can't get it through their head. So, eventually I started thinking, what can I do? So I went to various companies, and I had every company wanting to partner up with me with a showrunner and go into Universal, make a deal, and put together a series. Unfortunately, Universal still couldn't get it through their head that this was a viable project that, had wings.
We have the right where we want them. Your friend Starbuck, he was alive when last I saw him. Or I'm sure he's dead by now.
Starbuck's alive, I know it.
If you leave, I will replace you.
Prepare the fleet for battle.
They were in the midst of a life and death struggle for survival. We need heroes.
The time has come to stop running and take back our sacred homeland. Are you ready to lay down your lives so the human race will survive once again? Then let's do it!
Starbuck, here we come.
All right, boys and girls, engage the enemy. Let's show them what we're made out of.
That's what I've been waiting for. Come get me, you little tin heads.
So it kind of, I think began to build a momentum among the fans. And then eventually Glenn Larson tried to do the Pegasus story.
Yeah.
And then Tom DeSanto and Brian Singer, after I did my thing, actually were big Battlestar fans, especially Tom DeSanto. They went to Universal, and because they just had this big success with X-Men, they were open to doing a Battlestar project with Tom DeSanto and Brian Singer. But unfortunately, it got pushed to the side when Brian Singer had to jump ship and go back to X-Men 2, which was having some problems. So Tom DeSanto took it over to Sci-Fi Channel. They didn't want to do it. The Sci-Fi Channel didn't want to do Battlestar, even though Battlestar was its premier title when the Sci-Fi Channel was relaunched. So what happened? I think they finally got some kind of a idea or pitch, and I'm not exactly sure the time frame or the timing of that, but Ron Moore, I think, was brought in, and he decided to put together or came up with the idea of doing a reimagined version. And Ron was very famous in the Star Trek world. He was a big fan who was pitching for Star Trek episodes and got some of his episodes done, and eventually they brought him on staff on Star Trek, and he started to produce and write some of those episodes, and he became very well known for the quality of his writing and talents. And he came and put together a whole new reimagined version of Battlestar, and they were open to that. And so all I can tell you is, when I thought they were going to do a cheesy little 902 ripoff of Battlestar Galactica, they actually ended up putting together an incredibly talented, gifted crew, actors, writers, directors, and I have to say that all my concerns went out the window when I saw episode 1. I just thought, my God, they finally understand what Battlestar is all about. They got the core essence of surviving a Holocaust, the life and death struggle to survive each day, and those kinds of conditions that bring out the best and worst in each human being, and that creates great drama, great, pathos. And so I thought they did an extraordinary job, and I went from really being angry and resentful and against any new series, because I thought they were going to do a cheesy ripoff instead of something really, really artful, And when I realized they were doing something really artful, I changed my mind, because for me, I don't care where it comes from, great art is great art. And I'm hungry for great art, great performances, great writing. And when I get to see a good movie or a great series, there's nobody that is, takes his hat off and honors everybody that contributed to putting together something so magnificent.
Moments ago, this ship received word of a Cylon attack against our home worlds is underway. We do not know the size or the disposition or the strength of the enemy forces, but all indications point to a massive assault against colonial defenses.
But no actual enemy has been sighted yet. Officials are saying there doesn't seem any doubt.
As of this moment, we are at war.
Multiple greatest contacts, Cylon base star, and multiple Cylon raiders bearing.
Action stations, launch Vipers.
Action stations, launch the alert fighter. Cam ready?
Broken formation, razzle-dazzle. Don't let them use their targeting computer.
Hold it together, guys!
The only new breed of Cylon. The last time anybody saw the Cylons, they looked more like walking chrome toasters.
There are 12 models. I'm number 6.
If the Cylons look like us, then any one of us could be a Cylon.
I mean, you wake up somewhere and you don't know how you got there or anything, you're drugged.
You heard the rumors? Cylons who look like humans, sleeper agents hiding in the fleet?
Another Cylon!
I'm trying to figure out how you managed to pull this kind of an attack.
Systems down. We're looking at a goddamn bloodbath. We're defenseless.
Gods, there must be hundreds of them.
The human race is about to be wiped out. We have 50,000 people left, and that's it.
They've been tracking the ship all along.
If there are Cylons aboard this ship, we'll find them.
The day comes when you can't hide from the things you've done.
Humanity's children are returning home today.
An amazing cast of actors, and the collaboration between the writers, directors, producers, 5 handheld cameras moving around you with the scenes, which gave you a lot of flexibility, a lot of freedom. It was one of the most extraordinary acting environments that I've ever been on in my life, and I got a chance to be on the show for 5 years. The producer Ron Moore had met me at Battlestar Galactica, or Galacticon, the 25th Battlestar Anniversary Convention, which I produced. And I got a chance to meet him. And basically, when he pitched the new show to all the original fans, they were so cold and so, unhappy. And so was I at the time. I mean, I was really down on any new version. I thought, why are they not doing a continuation? And when he played the trailers for the new show, I thought, this is really different. I don't know if I like it, but I said, definitely an artist, a talented, gifted writer, producer, artist was creating something far more meaningful than some cheesy little ripoff. And I have to tell you that after episode 1 of the new Battlestar, I fell in love with it. And then I couldn't believe that they brought me in, because I had kind of created a little bit of a relationship with Ron Moore. And he brought me in, and we sat down and talked, and he said, would you be interested in playing this political revolutionary a la Nelson Mandela character? And I've always been a Nelson Mandela aficionado. I love that man. I think that man is an extraordinary human being. anything that uplifts humanity is something that appeals to me. And so when they asked me if I'd be interested in playing the role of Tom Zarek, I absolutely said yes, although there was a slight conflicted part of my being because I'd put so much energy into doing a continuation and had spoken about how studios always ruin classics by bringing them back and basically losing track of what really made the originals so successful. And but in this case, I have to tell you, they took that theme, that core theme of life and death, surviving a Holocaust, to the highest level, to the place that I always wanted the original show to go to. And I was just blown away by the artfulness of it. And I felt so appreciated to not only come on and guest star on it as Tom Zarek, but they actually made my character a continuing character. And I got to evolve on that show. So extraordinary experience to be part of a great story with great acting, great collaborators, and then, by the way, great human beings. Everybody on that show was quality human beings, and there's nothing better than that.
Turning to the Cylons. The Cylons. For help. Aren't the Cylons the reason we're out here in the first place? Aren't they the enemy? Or are they suddenly our friends if that helps keep Rosalind Adama in power?
Point of order, the chair needs to bring a motion, not make a speech.
Thank you, Mr. Adama. The chair moves that any decision on allowing Cylons to board any ship in this fleet be made by the captain and the people living on that ship and not the Rosalind Adama administration.
What we need right now is unity. This is a fleet-wide issue. We need to stand together. It affects all of us.
Sagittarian calls the question.
Toron seconds.
Question has been called and seconded. All in favor? All opposed? The vote is 11-1. Motion carries. No Cylon will board a ship in this fleet without permission of its people.
Thank you. Thank you.
We have to make choices. Every order we give, every shot we take, could mean the difference between survival and extinction. Each small victory gives us a little hope that the choices we're making are the right ones. The world is over. The fight is just beginning.
You know, it's interesting because coming on the new reimagined version of Battlestar Galactica, you know, without playing, obviously, my original role of Apollo, people thought that might be a little kind of strange and I might have conflict with that. But I have to tell you, people forget that, first of all, I played Apollo for 1 year, 35 years ago. So they don't realize I've played 1,000 roles since then. So, and I've grown. I mean, the Richard Hatch of 35 years ago and 35 years later is two different people. So I honestly didn't have a problem coming on to play Tom Zarek. In fact, in all honesty, as much as I love Captain Apollo, I was frustrated because back then I felt like they didn't know how to write for Captain Apollo. I felt like here's the good guy, the guy that always does the right thing, and for whatever reasons, they never appreciate the good guy, okay? Just like women, they always like the bad boy for some reason. And it seems like they just didn't quite know what to do with me. So I was a little frustrated as Apollo, as much as I love the character, because I think the character of Apollo is an amazing man. But 35 years later, getting to play this enigmatic, multi-layered, conflicted character of Tom Zarek was a dream come true. Because I consider myself, and always have, to be more of a character actor than a leading man. I never felt like comfortable playing a leading man. Plus, the leading man roles usually were not half as interesting as the character roles. So I love playing Tom Zarek. So when I met Jamie, I thought maybe there would be a little animosity or a little some kind of energy there because here's the original Apollo coming on and da-da-da-da. But the funny part was, from the moment we worked together, we had such a great chemistry. And I grew to appreciate Jamie so much. The quality of the man, how down to earth and genuine he was. In fact, he embodied many of the qualities of Apollo. And from the very get-go, he was so, no arrogance, no attitude, no judgment. He came over to me at the table read when I first walked on the set, when I was the most uncomfortable, and told me how much he loved the original show and Captain Apollo, and he had no ego about it. And I thought, wow, you know, this is going to work. And from the moment that we started doing the scene, we developed a bond, a relationship, a friendship, and it never became any kind of a, challenging circumstance for me at all. I loved playing Tom Zarek, and it was really fun to watch how they worked with Apollo in that show, and even though the writing for me was 10 times better in the new show, I think they still struggled. Apollo is still that character for some reason, because he's kind of the, good guy. I think they were trying to find a way, to use him more effectively, and sometimes they did and sometimes they didn't, but it seemed like they would write much better for many of the other like darker characters. Like they really wrote well for, Baltar, James Callis, Katie Sackhoff, some of those characters I felt like they really, really gave them some great scenes and great material to work with. And Jamie, my God, got so much better material than I ever had on the original Battlestar. But again, there was no jealousy for me. I totally appreciated his performance, and I just love the man as a human being. He's an amazing human being.
This is Lee Adama. Get my father on the line.
I'm sorry, Lee. We're having a bit of an emergency right now.
Is it serious?
Nothing damage control can't handle, but you know the Admiral.
Yeah, well, I thought I did. Well, maybe you can help. Do you have any idea why Tom Zarek was released?
Released? When?
Oh, that's just perfect. First he tells me to threaten the delegates with jail, then he blindsides me by giving Zarek a pass.
Doesn't make sense to me either. As soon as your father gets back, I'll be sure that he knows you called.
Problems on the home front? I have to say, Lee, you don't seem particularly happy to see me.
I'm glad you're out. My father overreached when he had you arrested. But I hope you changed your mind about the Cylon FDLs. We need those drives.
At least the Admiral thinks we do. Problem with you, Lee, is that you're trying to have it both ways. Honor thy father or be true to your oath as the Caprican representative. At some point, the two don't mix. Do you know why he released me? Because I'm only a threat if you recognize the civilian authority. Afraid our experiment in democracy is about to end. Adama entertained it until now because of Rosalind. But since she abdicated the throne...
No, he wouldn't do that.
Really? Because he did it before. Tell me, what excuse did he give this time when he refused to take your call? You're leaving.
For Galactica. To prove you wrong.